500,000 kids in foster care, and they are vulnerable to child sex trafficking. Because they don't have anybody, they are more likely to run away if they're unhappy. They think maybe the streets would be better than this foster home that I'm living in, where I'm being neglected and abused. Mm-hmm. So we need to empower our foster kids, and it should be a priority for all of us.
But what if someone doesn't feel like I'm enough, or they have doubts or low self-esteem?
I think we all do.
Right? So we don't value who we are. How would you go about to, I don't know, say that they do have some desire to want to make a difference? Because I think we all do,
I
right?
think so too. Child sex trafficking, the average age is 13. That means half of them are 11, 12, even 10. Not only are they sex trafficked, and they have between 15 and 30 clients a day, is that acceptable to anybody?
Empowerment. Can you explain what that means? What is at the core or the root of empowerment? And how do individuals behave or act in this world when they are empowered?
Oh, that's a big subject. But empowerment is about finding yourself, finding your own identity, not relying on other people to tell you what to do, how to act, what you should think. Empowerment is the freedom of the spirit. And our country was built on freedom. But freedom comes from within. Freedom isn't something that are just, here are the rules, you have freedom, you have this. It's also a release of the freedom of the spirit to do what you think is important. What is your mission in life? What do you want to accomplish? What attracts you? That's empowerment. Find out by volunteering. Get involved in something. Maybe it's animals. Maybe it's the climate. Maybe it's violence. Maybe it's kids. Whatever it may be. Don't just sit behind the television or your computer and say, oh, I hope somebody fixes this. This is terrible. That's not the way it's going to change. It's up to you and me to change it. So empowerment is self-empowerment, freedom of the spirit.
Awesome. Why is it so important to be clear about that? Like getting clear about being empowered, and then what happens if it's out of balance? Like if you're not centered in your empowerment?
Well, I've seen so much of the out of balance, and that's where the bully comes in, and that's where the pincushion child comes in. And they look for love in all the wrong places. We have become a sexualized society. Hollywood has been a huge contributor to that. And we think bed hopping is the way you find love. That's exactly the wrong thing to do, because an intimate relationship is about really committing to one person and feeling loved and getting that wonderful feeling of family. And that's an empowerment right there. And we all need to look at what's happening to us. We see we're going downhill. We see we're falling into this pit. One of the things I noticed is how the halftime show at the Super Bowl has changed. I mean, here we are in Vegas. It was a Las Vegas show. We have promoted this, and I don't mind going to a show once in a while. I mean, we all do, but it has permeated our society and our children especially. It's much harder to protect your kids from all of the sexualizing that's going on. There is so much porn on the computer. They say the average child sees porn for the first time before age 11.
Mm-hmm.
That should be a wake-up call for all of us, because you sexualize your children, you've lost them. Because they find not meaning within themselves, they find meaning in other people. They dress for other people, they act for other people, and we want to encourage our children to look within themselves and find their strong power within themselves, so they can make good choices for themselves, so nobody will control their behavior. Suicide rates are way up, highest they've ever been. My neighbor's granddaughter, no, it was a grandson, he hung himself in a garage.
Oh my gosh.
He was, I think she said 15. Come on, people, this is not acceptable. Children have no value of themselves. We are doing a poor job of helping them, of listening to them. I mentioned the listening chair. Start when they're young. If you start when they're young, they will tell you things when they're teenagers. I grew up in a dysfunctional family. My husband grew up in a dysfunctional family. I have 3 amazing, successful children and 7 amazing grandchildren, and they're all successful. So it can be done, but we have to look at ourselves and where we are and say, I'm going to help make the change happen. So when my son was 6 years old, I wanted to teach him, and I have 3 kids, I wanted to teach all of them that they had the power within themselves, but they had to see it for themselves.
Yes.
I couldn't tell them that. So one day he came home crying. He was 6 years old. He was in 1st grade. And he came home and he was so upset. And he said, I'm not going back to school anymore. And I said, well, what's the matter? He said, oh, Johnny is picking on me and being mean to me, and I don't want to go back there. And I said, whoa, wait a minute. I said, why don't you put on your Superman costume? He looked at me like, what? And I said, well, that was the hero of the day. And I said, well, you remember Superman? He lets bullets bounce off of his chest. He's so strong. And I said, you got to let word bullets bounce off of your chest. And he said, yeah, okay. Well, a couple days later, he comes home crying again. So I repeated my story. You got to let those word bullets. And I said, you can speak up. You can gave him some options. Talk to your teacher. But you need to take care of it yourself. Well, about a week later, he came home so happy. And I said, whoa, how'd it go at school today? And he said, oh, it went great. He said, I took care of Johnny. And I go, okay, what did you do? And he said, well, I told him, if he doesn't stop, I'm going to punch him in the nose. But then he said, I turned on my heel, and he said, I reported it to the teacher. And she put a stop to it. And I said, good for you. He took his power back. He, not Mom, he took his power back. He solved his own problem. We never heard about that again.
Wow.
So that's how you empower the little ones. And the listening chair can help with that, so that they can release any anger they have and improve your communication, and help them be spiritually centered so that they don't bully, and so that they don't also become an easy victim. girls are more likely to become victims, but boys can be victims too. We need to empower our kids and help them get back to center so that they can be strong within themselves. Every child has the power to do it. Every child.